Hello, welcome to Thursday Thoughts, this time from the Associate Rector. Today is October 1st, which is kind of a fun day. I know fall officially started a few days ago, a little over a week ago, but it's just now in New Bern kind of starting to feel like fall. Depending on where you're from, where you lived past in your life, this may not feel anything like fall, but around here, we're starting to get into the forces of it. It's a little bit cooler, highs only in the 70s. We're getting out our different clothes. So it's a time of transition. One of my favorite quotes about fall or autumn is, "The trees are about to show us how beautiful it is to let things go." I love that quote because it can be hard, really hard to let things go, but that's just a part of life so much of the time. Especially over on the chapel side of our yard, we have a beautiful ginkgo that probably not for another month or so, but when it turns yellow, it is the most beautiful thing ever. There's a passage from Ecclesiastes. You've probably heard something similar. This is from the Common English Bible, so I'll read it to you now. "There's a season for everything, and a time for every matter under the heavens. A time for giving birth and a time for dying. A time for planting and a time for uprooting what was planted. A time for killing, a time for healing. A time for tearing down and a time for building up. A time for crying and a time for laughing. A time for mourning and a time for dancing. A time for throwing stones and a time for gathering stones. A time for embracing and a time for avoiding embraces. A time for searching and a time for losing. A time for keeping and a time for throwing away. A time for tearing down and a time for repairing. A time for keeping silent and a time for speaking. A time for loving and a time for hating. A time for war and a time for peace." I think it's very fitting that it's in this autumn fall season that we're just starting the major work on our nave. All of this space is about to change drastically. It'll be, in just a few days, there'll be so much scaffolding in here, it'll look nothing like this, and after months of work, it will be a very different version, a very beautiful version of what it is now. But getting there, that transition isn't always easy. We are not born with the ability to handle transitions well. And I know that very well because I have a 2-year-old at home. Something happened yesterday. I normally do pick up at Jimmy's preschool, and normally it's a wonderful time because as soon as he sees me in the doorway, his face lights up and he's happy because he loves his mommy and he's happy to see her. Yesterday, I went to go pick him up, and he and his classmates were in the middle of, they were playing with this new tent and tunnel thing. They were crawling through it. They were all clearly having a ball. He's having a blast. He gets up and he sees me in the doorway, and this time, his face frowns. He realized that because I was here, it was time to go home. And going home would mean giving up all this fun that he was in the middle of enjoying. And we had to coax him out. He did come out, he enjoyed his lunch. But it was just a reminder of how hard transitions can always be. Especially when they're unexpected transitions, which COVID has been nothing but a time of unexpected transitions in the church. And yeah, they can be really tough sometimes, and they're often a struggle. So I pray that we all can find the grace to handle whatever transitions are around the corner, whether we know they're coming or whether we don't know they're coming. May we find God in all of them. Thank you.